The fluorescent lights in the school auditorium had that particular hum, the kind that sits just beneath hearing, the kind you only notice when everything else inside you has gone silent. The seats were the fold-down wooden type, lacquered so many times they'd turned amber. I could smell floor polish and the faint sweetness of someone's perfume 2 rows ahead. I had arrived early, the way I always did for Grace's performances, and I was holding a small bouquet of daisies in my lap when my wife leaned toward me and said, without looking up from her phone, "Don't sit with us tonight, sit somewhere else. My parents are coming." She said it the way someone might tell a waiter they needed an extra napkin. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't ask why. My hands tightened around the stems of the daisies, and something behind my ribs went very still. I stood, moved 3 rows back, and sat alone. She never turned around. She had no idea what she had set in motion. My name is Gerald Whitmore. I was 51 years old. I had worked in supply chain compliance for a regional hospital network for 19 years, the kind of work that requires patience with systems, attention to detail, and a tolerance for being invisible. I was good at it. I had married Colleen when I was 26, 25 years, a quarter of a century spent under the same roof, eating at the same table, splitting the same utility bills, and raising the same daughter. On paper, it looked like stability. From the inside, it felt like a house where the furniture had been rearranged so gradually that one day you stood in your own living room and could not find a place to sit. Colleen had not always been cruel. That is important to say. In the early years, she laughed at my observations, asked about my day, reached for my hand in parking lots. But somewhere around year 12 or 13, I became more of a function than a presence. I was the one who replaced the air filters, who drove Grace to her cello lessons every Thursday, who filled out the tax returns in February while Colleen watched television in the next room. When I offered an opinion at dinner about a news story, about a vacation idea, about anything, she would pause, blink at me as if I had spoken in a language she did not recognize, and then continue talking to Grace about something else. My words did not provoke disagreement. They provoked nothing. They simply evaporated. Her parents had always preferred her first boyfriend, a man named Dale who went into real estate and now owned a boat. Her mother, Vivian, once told me at Thanksgiving, with Grace sitting 3 feet away, that Colleen could have done better. I smiled, passed the cranberry sauce, and said nothing. I let it go. I let a lot go. The money was another room in this house I was not supposed to enter. I earned the primary income. Colleen worked part-time at an interior design studio, which she described as her career, but which paid less than our monthly grocery bill. Somehow, over the years, the finances had migrated entirely to her oversight. She opened accounts I was not informed about. She moved savings without discussion. When I once asked to review the credit card statements, she looked at me as if I had accused her of something indecent. "Do you not trust me?" she said. That sentence, that one question, had been her lock on every financial door for nearly a decade. I should have seen it sooner. I should have asked harder questions. But I was the man who kept the house standing and asked for nothing in return. And somewhere along the way, I mistook silence for peace. The night of the recital, I sat in my reassigned seat and watched my daughter walk onto that stage. Grace was 14, slender, serious, her cello tucked against her like a shield. She scanned the audience and found me. Not her mother, not her grandparents, me. She gave me a small nod, the kind of signal we had developed over years of shared car rides and quiet evenings. I nodded back. My chest ached with something I could not name. The performance was beautiful. Grace played a Bach suite with a steadiness that made me grip the armrest. When she finished, the room applauded, and then the director, a tall woman named Mrs. Adler, stepped to the microphone. "Before we continue," she said, "I want to recognize one parent in particular." My stomach dropped. "Mr. Whitmore, would you stand?" I did not move at first. The auditorium was quiet. "Mr. Whitmore has driven Grace to every single lesson for the past 4 years. He has attended every recital, every practice concert, every parent meeting. He built the instrument storage rack in our rehearsal room with his own hands. I have never seen a more present, more dedicated parent in this program. The applause came from everywhere. I stood slowly. My legs felt uncertain beneath me. Grace was smiling from the stage, the first full, unguarded smile I had seen from her in months. 3 rows ahead, I could see the back of Colleen's head. She did not turn. Her mother leaned toward her and whispered something. Colleen's shoulders tightened. She still did not turn. I sat back down with a daisy still in my hand, and something cracked open inside my chest. Not pain, clarity. For the first time in 25 years, someone had said out loud what I had done. And 3 rows ahead, the woman who had told me to sit somewhere else could not bring herself to look at me. That was the moment something inside me went quiet. After the recital, I drove Grace home. Colleen rode with her parents. The house was dark when we arrived. I walked Grace inside, told her she had played beautifully, and then sat in my car in the driveway for 45 minutes. The engine was off. The windows fogged with my breath. I did not feel angry. I felt focused, like a man who had been reading a contract for 25 years and had finally found the clause that voided everything. The next morning, a Saturday, I went to the office supply store before Colleen woke. I bought a filing box, a pack of manila folders, and a small notebook. I sat in a coffee shop for 3 hours and wrote down everything I could remember. Every account she had mentioned, every financial conversation she had deflected, every moment where the math did not add up. The list was longer than I expected. I took screenshots of our shared banking app. I photographed the credit card statements I found in the bottom drawer of her desk, the ones she kept locked, but whose key she hid in the same ceramic bowl every single time. Silence was not surrender. It was inventory. On Monday, I called a family attorney named David Chen. I found him through a colleague who had been through his own quiet reckoning 2 years prior. David listened for 11 minutes without interruption, then said, "How soon can you bring me those documents?" I brought them the next day. The following 3 months were the most deliberate of my life. David filed preservation requests. We subpoenaed the accounts Colleen had opened without my name. There were 4 of them. One was a brokerage account with a balance that made my hands go cold. Another was a savings account linked to an address I did not recognize, her parents' lake house where, it turned out, a significant amount of our shared earnings had been quietly redirected over 6 years. I checked the time when David showed me the transfer records. It was 4:02 p.m. on a Wednesday. The fluorescent light in his office hummed the same way the auditorium lights had. Colleen did not know any of this was happening. She continued her routines, her studio mornings, her lunches with Vivian, her evening phone calls in the bedroom with the door closed. I continued mine. I drove Grace to cello lessons. I replaced a bathroom faucet. I sat at the dinner table and ate what was served and said what was expected. But every evening, after the house settled, I sat in my car or at the kitchen table with my notebook, and I added to the file. My phone buzzed on a Tuesday evening. A bank alert. Transfer of $14,200 to external account. Blocked per account holder freeze. I stared at the screen. My pulse was steady. She would have seen the same notification. I waited. 7 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. A text from Colleen. "Something is wrong with the bank. Can you call them?" I did not respond. The next morning, another text. "Gerald, are you ignoring me?" Then another. "This is ridiculous." Then a voicemail from Vivian, her voice sharp and theatrical. "Gerald, Colleen tells me you've been acting strange. Whatever this is, you need to stop it immediately." I saved each message. I responded to none of them. David called at 11:15 a.m. "They tried to liquidate the brokerage account this morning," he said. "The freeze held. They're going to contact an attorney now." I could hear him turning a page. "That's fine," he said. "Let them." At 3:47 p.m. the following Friday, I received a call from a number I did not recognize. It was Colleen's attorney, a woman named Sandra Pratt, requesting a meeting. "My client would like to resolve this amicably," she said. David, on speakerphone beside me, said 6 words. "We'll send the discovery packet first." The documents arrived at Sandra Pratt's office on a Monday. 73 pages, transfer records, account statements, screenshots of text messages, a timeline of financial activity that stretched back 6 years. David had organized it with the same precision I brought to supply chain audits. Every line item sourced, every transfer dated, every discrepancy highlighted in yellow. I did not hear from Colleen for 4 days. Then at 9:30 on a Thursday night, she appeared in the kitchen doorway. Her eyes were red. Her arms were folded. She looked smaller than I remembered. "You went through my things," she said. "I went through our things," I said. "There's a difference. I was protecting this family. You were protecting a version of this family that didn't include me." She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I didn't think you'd notice. You never noticed anything." My throat tightened. Because she was partly right. I had not noticed. For years I had chosen not to notice, because noticing would have meant admitting that the life I had built was a room I was no longer welcome in. But I did not say that, not then. The formal meeting took place the following Tuesday in David's conference room. Colleen sat across from me with Sandra beside her. Vivian was not present, though I later learned she had driven Colleen to the building and was waiting in the car. David placed a single folder in the center of the table and opened it. Account statements, transfer records, the brokerage account, the lake house savings, the credit card with charges to stores I had never heard of, in amounts that did not correspond to anything in our household. Colleen looked at each page the way someone watches water rise. First disbelief, then a hard, sharp anger that pulled her jaw tight. Then something softer, a tremor in her hands, a single breath drawn through her nose that shook on the way out. Sandra asked for a recess. David said no. "Mrs. Whitmore," David said, "the court will see these documents regardless. This meeting is a courtesy." Colleen looked at me. For the first time in years, she actually looked at me. "Gerald," she said, "I didn't mean for it to go this far." And I believed her. I believed that somewhere beneath the redirection and the dismissal and the quiet cruelty of being told to sit somewhere else at my own daughter's recital, there was a woman who had lost the plot of her own marriage and had covered the loss with control. I did not hate her. I understood her. And that understanding was the heaviest thing I carried out of that room. I said one sentence before I stood. "You chose who mattered when you told me not to sit with my own family." I picked up the folder. I walked out first. I did not wait for a response. The settlement took 2 more months. I kept the house. The redirected funds were returned to the marital estate and divided by the court. Colleen moved in with her parents. Grace, who was old enough to express a preference, chose to live with me. She did not say much about it. She did not need to. On the first night it was just the 2 of us. She sat at the kitchen table doing homework while I cooked pasta, and she said without looking up, "It's quieter now, but the good kind." I changed the locks on a Sunday morning in October. The air was cool and smelled like fallen leaves and damp pavement. I stood on the front porch with a cup of coffee and listened to nothing. No hum, no tension, no waiting for the next room to empty so I could enter. Just the sound of a neighborhood waking up. I did not feel triumphant. I felt unburdened. Like a man who had been carrying a suitcase for 25 years and had finally set it down, only to realize his arms still remembered the weight. Silence is not surrender. Sometimes it is the clearest language a man can speak. If you had been in my place that night, would you have stayed in the seat she chose for you? Or would you have started asking the questions I waited too long to ask? Tell me in the comments where you are listening from tonight. Your presence here, in this room we have built together, means more than you know. And if stories like this matter to you, subscribe. Let us keep walking this road together.